Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome. It's episode 39 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I'm your host, Catherine Eardley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership group for creative product businesses. You can find out more about the membership at resilientretailclub.com. We are continuing with our series of interview podcasts, a series where I talk to a mixture of experts and small business owners about one thing that you can try in your business to really move your business forward. And I'm really excited today to be joined by one of my clients, Manmeet, who is the founder of White Rain Designs. Manmeet is an incredibly talented artist and ceramicist. She makes beautiful jewellery and homewares. It's an incredible journey that the business has been on, especially in the last year. I invited Manmeet onto the podcast because of something that she does specifically really, really well. She has product launches periodically in her business, and I think personally, watching her stories and watching the way that she promotes these launches, she's really nailed that way of bringing the customer along with you on the journey. It's something we quite often talk about in marketing in terms of showing people behind the scenes of your business, showing people the process. And it's not always something that's easy. It's easy to say it, but it's not always easy to do it. So I asked Manmeet onto the podcast to talk about this process of launching products and bringing customers along on the journey. Because I think if you want a great example, then head over to White Rain Designs on Instagram and watch what she does. Hi, Manmeet. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I wanted to talk to you. So as you know, this is a series of podcasts where I'm talking to experts and business owners about some of the things that have helped them in their business. So do you want to just start off by telling us about White Rain Designs?
White Rain Designs is my ceramics business. I started it around 6 years ago, like quite casually. And then it's just grown and sort of grown. I had 2 children in that time. And I'd say in the last year and a half, it's just really come into itself, I think. And I always did it around nap times and just worked weekends and just built it up very, very slowly. But then in the last year, it's sped up quite rapidly, which is great. Yeah, maybe a little bit. And I sell a range of personalised ceramic gifts, like mugs and plates, and then I sell trinket dishes and earrings and necklaces now too. So it's quite a range of things.
And has it always been ceramics right from the get-go? That's been the sort of core of it?
Yeah, it's always been ceramics, but before I never did where I would make the ceramics from clay, like the earrings and necklaces and trinket dishes are all made from the clay. And before I was buying in the mugs and painting them. And then I was like, oh, I've got a kiln. What else can I do? So I was I'll try new things. And so, yeah, I've just experimented, trying new things. And just, it's grown quite organically in that way. But I did do a degree in fine art. So I've got, I suppose, a design arty background. So, yeah.
So the start of it really was then you were buying in ceramics, you were using your fine art skills to paint. And then at what point did you buy the kiln then?
Before I started in this, I was doing toddler art classes, and I was doing them in ceramic studios, those paint your own pottery.
Yes.
So that's where it started, and my friend owned the pottery studio, and so she used to do my firing, and then I was like, oh, maybe we'll get a kiln. And then when James and I got married, that's my husband, sorry, when we got married, we're coming up to our 6th wedding anniversary, he bought me a kiln for my wedding present. I didn't get him anything, and then that's when we got our first kiln. It's just small, we've still got that one, but it's sufficient. But now we're getting a new one soon, so yeah.
Wow, that's such a lovely present. So he was basically saying to you, go for it.
Yeah, he was. And I was like, oh, I didn't get you anything.
But you've got him. You've grown the business, so
he got me.
that's wonderful. So then you were able to start doing your own firing. Did you then also start experimenting with the clay, or did that come a bit further down?
Yeah, after about a year, I was like, oh, what else can I do? And my background isn't in ceramics, so I've really had to learn as I've gone along, just
Yeah.
like watching videos and like reading what other people do and learning like myself, I suppose, in a way, a bit self-taught. But so then I literally just bought a lump of clay and I just started rolling and found out what degrees and things I needed to fire at, and I just went for it. And then I bought the luster and I was like, oh, let's try this now. That's the gold that makes it really shiny. And then it goes on like a third firing.
Yeah.
And so then that's what makes everything so like shiny. And I was like, wow, I love this. And so then I just started thinking, what else can I do? And then it just sort of happened.
Yeah, and you still use the luster a lot now today. It's probably a big part of your business.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was then organic experimentation. Were you always on Instagram right from the start?
No, and I think had I tried to do it more at the beginning, it might have grew a bit quicker at the beginning, but that's okay. It's grown now a bit more. I wasn't as much. I just sold on Etsy, which was really great because I was still trying to figure out what I was even doing. So it was good to just start getting a few sales in, and just then as I've grown, I've learned more like what do people actually buy more, and how can I like streamline my designs, and what are they buying for. And I just learned just naturally just by seeing what people were buying and what were selling and not.
So then you gradually expanded the range and started Instagram.
Yeah, sorry. Started my Instagram. Yeah. That's my Instagram. It's just, and then I just always posted like a little bit here and there. And then when they started doing stories, I started doing a bit more stories here and there, but it wasn't necessarily as natural to me like when I did do it. But as I've grown, I've just started to just chat more on stories and show more behind the scenes, because I'd always get really good feedback from like followers and customers saying that they liked to see what was going on, and then I just started doing more stories, and then that was it. Yeah,
then you were unstoppable.
Yeah, basically. Quite chatty, basically.
So the reason that I wanted to get you onto the podcast as well as talk about your amazing business is because, as I said, this series is about things that businesses can do to help themselves, help grow their exposure, help grow their profile, and ultimately, obviously, help grow their sales. And one of the things that often gets talked about, or people often ask me about, is this idea of launching. So launching products, launching new collections. And I wanted to get you on because I think you do a really good job of really going into a lot of detail when you're about to launch a new product. There's a lot of detail that you share. So from what you're saying, that sounds like that was something that happened fairly organically.
Yeah, I think almost everything has happened fairly organically. I've just tested different things and seen what's worked and what hasn't. And what has worked, I've tried to do more of, and what hasn't, I just don't do.
Love that.
Simple, basically.
Yeah. Well, it sounds simple, but it's effective, right? So when you think about launching a new product, do you have a plan in mind? Like, okay, I'm going to launch it on this day, and then this week I'm going to talk about this, that, and the other in the run up? Or is it just something that now that you've done so many different product launches, you feel fairly comfortable with a sort of routine, or where you're able to, you kind of know the formula that works of what to share and when?
Even though I basically overthink everything else in my life, I don't think I overthink that side of things too, because I think if I overthink it too much, it doesn't feel as natural. But I guess my products are quite different because everything has to go through quite a stage of testing with the kiln firings, and that is quite a process. So I feel like I just start sharing what I'm thinking about or what I'm working on, and asking like opinions on polls and like in question boxes, and I always get quite good like responses. But I have to also say that it's taken me a while to get good responses. At the beginning I'd maybe get like 2 people answer or no one answer, but like it's fine, I'll just keep doing it, and then people eventually get more invested in what you're asking them and what they're saying, not what they're saying, what I'm saying. And now I get feedback that people say, oh, they love that I asked them what they think of. And most of the time I have like an idea of like I'm 75% sure of this idea, let me just ask what they think. And then most people will say the same thing. And then I'm like, oh, okay, great. And then the occasion someone will suggest something else. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just becomes like a bit of a journey. And then I feel like when I do eventually come to the launch, people are quite invested in what I've been talking
Yes.
about for so long that they're like, oh, okay, what is it now? Where is it? How did you do it? What did you do? And so, yeah, it does. I think it does then help people want to buy it and want to be part of. They like being part of it, and even if they don't buy it straight away, they've seen it, and then when they're ready, they might, or when they think of the right time.
Yeah, they're thinking about it, and it's often a word that gets bandied around when people are talking about the way that the retail industry is shifting. They talk about co-creation, and it really does feel so. Co-creation being the sort of process where businesses co-create things with their communities. So they say, oh, and it's exactly what you do. And I really like what you said there about how you start the process. So it's really quite a long way in advance. So it might be the first thing you say will be, hey, I'm thinking about doing some new earring colours. Which one would you go for? Right.
Yeah, or like a new shape. Last year I launched new triangle, and I sell these ceramic earring studs. And
Yes.
I only was selling teardrop, circle, and hexagons, and I wanted to do some new shapes. So I just asked my followers, and I was like, "Well, what can I get hold of? What, like, in terms of the materials or the stamps and stuff I need for them?" And someone said hearts, and I was like, "Oh, I just don't think hearts is my brand. I'm not sure." But I tried them, and I really liked them, and now my hearts are like my bestseller. I just didn't think it would be. Sometimes, yeah, they have like totally helped, but then sometimes I have an idea of myself of what I think anyway, and I just, it's nice to have some reassurance that I'm not just like going off on one.
Yeah, and then I think what's so interesting though is when you say that you bring them along on the process. So the first thing you do is you ask them which colour, but then it doesn't finish there. It's not like you do, what colour should I do next, and then 4 or 5 weeks go past and then you launch them. It's like you say, which colour should I do next? But then you really, I think and I really enjoy watching it as well as the process. So you'll be like, they're going in the kiln, and what colour are they going to come out? And this is how they looked, and what do you think? And again, so is that just fairly organic? You just realise if you bring, literally almost bringing people along on the journey, bringing your phone along and being like, going in the kiln now.
Yeah, I think people really, especially the kiln stuff, people really love to see the kiln stuff. I think, and I see when I think of other businesses that I quite like when they show behind the scenes stuff as well. So I think people respond to that quite well, and they love seeing those transformations in the process of it. So when I've just launched those new birth flower necklaces, I started by showing the sketches, and then I started by showing, I made this like leaflet on the computer, and I was like, oh, do you like this leaflet? And everyone was like, yeah, can you make it a print? And it's like, I don't do prints, I do ceramics, but okay. And then I like showed them when the stamps arrived. Then I like filmed a little bit stamping the clay, and then they went in the kit. It was like but I have quite a lot of steps in my making, so it's in that way it's probably a bit easier and more organic for me to show all of those steps. But even the ones that might come across as really boring, I think people still really like to see, and if they don't, they just won't watch it. Like, it doesn't, I feel like I've stopped overthinking it as well. Like, is it too much? I feel like if it's really too much, then fine, maybe, but like otherwise I think people like it.
Yeah, and I think what's so fascinating about what you're saying as well is I do think that it is something that is potentially a little bit easier if you've got a handmade product, because you could literally show the different stages and the process. But even so, I can imagine if you were somebody who's manufacturing and you said, here are my swatches, which one do you like the best? And then you say, I'm sending off the final sample for approval, and oh my goodness, my sample's come back, here it is in a box. Like, there's all sorts of things you can do there, right? As well, you can, but it's more about the narrative. So people are seeing day after day, they're seeing the story of, so for example, the birth flower necklaces. So you have a necklace for every month, you did the sketch for each different birth flower for each month, you sent that off, you got the stamps made, you bring it back, you stamp them all, then you fire it and paint them, and then there's also trying to get the doing the photography and everything like that. So there are lots of process pieces, but then it also means, if we go with this idea that it's 7 to 10 touch points. People have to see something 7 to 10 times before they're ready to make a purchase. Then your people are arriving, your customers are arriving at the point in which you launch the product, and they've seen it 10 times,
Yeah,
right?
they're probably sick of it. Like, I've seen this, move on. But yeah, no, exactly. And I really think that does help. And the other thing is that sometimes people are not ready to buy it straight away. They might have seen the process, but they still might take another month or two. So even after I've sort of got to the process, I'm still like, oh, I'm packing these now. And oh, this one's just happened. I've just taken this color out. Oh, I love this. And it's not like I'm faking it, because I really love my product. That's no egotistical side of it. I just really like them. So it's not an ingenuine thing that I'm sharing when I'm packing them and excited about it, because I think people would like to see that sort of side of things as well, that if you're excited for it. And I say to some of my small business friends who don't have a making business like mine, I'm like, oh, if you just got something in, film that, get that story, share it. Like, people love to see that, you've just got your or share the process of it. And I know that quite a lot of other businesses do in different ways. But yeah, great to see, I think.
I often say this to people: the launch is not the finish line, it's the starting pistol in a lot of ways. So people think, right, okay, I'm going to talk about it. Or often what I find when I'm talking to people, they say, well, I promoted it. And then I'll say, how did you do that? They'll say, well, I've done a story where I talked about it, and I've done a feed post. And it's like, there's probably like 20 more things you could do. And I think what's really interesting about your approach is that you're talking about it being completely, you use the word organic a lot, but it is that. It's also not like you're turning up on stories and saying, buy my necklace, right? You're not.
No, I literally have never. I'm like, it's on sale now and here's a swipe up. If now I've got the swipe, I'm never like, buy my stuff.
And I think this is what a lot of people struggle with, is that they say, right, you need to promote, you need to launch. You need to really make a kind of big deal about it when you're launching a product. And they think, right, well, but I did a story and I said, I'm launching this product. Not only do you get them involved, but then you show, this is how I designed it. And then you show, this is how I made it and how I painted it. So would you say it's about then the process, just as you said, the process, like when they receive it, what's opening the box, all of those things?
Yeah, I haven't got as much as far as like the receiving. I would love to do a bit more of that side, but I'm a bit limited on time. But yeah, as much as I can, I'll share, and I'll share like packing or like organizing my orders, and like when I've taken everything out of the kiln. I have to take things out of the kiln 3 times, so that's like 3 opportunities. But then as much as I do share, like I also feel like, okay, I don't need to, like if I'm doing a necklace now, I might not show every firing, because there's like a line, isn't there? Sharing too much of like every single step of what you do. But I'll just drop it in here and there, and I'll mix it up with my other products. I won't just only show like a necklace. I'll just show a variety of different things. And I also have realized it's okay if it doesn't do as well one time as it did the time before. Next time, it's like I just don't overthink it. I just do it. I make a conscious effort, as I'm like, this is part of my business. Yeah, I know that maybe people think, well, I just sit around and talking on stories all day, but actually I'm like, okay, I've got this half an hour, I'm going to do some stories, I'm going to caption them, because I always feel like captioning I think it's important.
Yes.
Because not only like for people who may not be able to hear, but also just because I know that 9 times out of the 10 I have my phone on silent. I'm like, it's great that but I can be talking, but then if people can't read or see what I'm saying, it's just wasted. So I know it takes a bit more time, but I just allocate that time. I'm like, it's fine, I'm just going to give myself half an hour and just do that. And I'm going to just keep showing up as well. That's what I think. I feel like if I'm genuinely happy and excited about something, I think it comes across. But then if I'm in a mood where I'm just like, I'm not a people person today, then I just don't go on stories. I just try and do it when I'm feeling more, when it feels more natural, or when I feel like happier and excited or whatever.
I think that's such an important point, because I do really believe that people buy your excitement. Their ears prick up when they hear people talking about something. If you see someone go on stories and they're like, oh yeah, I have this product, and you think, and I know it's hard to start off with because you can be nervous.
Yeah.
But then actually when you see someone who's like, oh my goodness, And that's what I really like about your stories, actually, because you're like, oh, I got this out and look at it's all shiny. I love it.
It's like I'm just like jewelry, aren't I? I'm like, oh, it's shiny and that's it. But no, I think that's it. And I have to also say it didn't come naturally to me at the beginning. At the beginning, I'd do a story and then my like mum or my cousin would message me and be like, why are you talking so funny on the camera? Like, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really trying. So it took me a long time of trying to feel a bit more natural with my flow of it as well. As I think it wasn't straight away that I felt more like I didn't go straight on camera and be like, oh, this is really easy. It's not that easy. It takes time to get used to it, I think. And now I'm just like,
no, you're unstoppable.
Yeah, now I'm chatty basically, but also I try not to be too chatty because if I see someone with loads of stories, I'm just not even going to watch that. That's too much even for me. So just try and find a balance.
And
basically.
I like the fact that you just don't push it. If you're not in the mood that day, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna not show up today. That's fine. There's lots of other things you can share with photos and the mix. And it's funny, it was a random story, but I was thinking the other day, so I have a Peloton bike, and even though the instructors there, they're obviously paid to do the classes, I much prefer the classes where the instructor is like so into the music. And I always get mad because they do these artist series rides where sometimes they do themes and it's one particular band or one particular singer or something, and it's just their songs. And the ones where the instructor's like a massive fan of that band and has been allowed to do a ride themed around that, and they're like into it and they're singing along, they're the ones that I really love. And then the ones where somebody's obviously been like, okay, you've got to do a Bon Jovi ride, and that person's really like, oh, great, Bon Jovi, something like that. And then you watch them and you think, yeah, they're not enjoying this. They don't know the words, they don't know the songs. And I think that, and it always makes me think about that when you're on video, not you personally, but when small business owners are on video, or even when I'm showing up on video, I always kind of have that sort of Peloton thing in the back of my mind. It's like, you want to be the instructor who's like done the Britney ride and this is like the greatest moment of his life,
Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to be sitting around being enthusiastic all day long, but I'm like, if I'm just not in that mood today, it's okay to just share a few pictures or not do anything as well. I think that's it, because I think you don't want to have to feel like you have to keep being over the top.
Yeah.
Not that it's over the top, but you know what I mean. But I totally know what you mean. I like when I see stories where people are like just a bit more engaging. It's much more enjoyable for me to watch than if someone's like complaining. Or I just don't think, for me, it's the platform to complain. For me, it's like, this is my products and I love them. I just complain to you or to someone else.
I also think as well, you want people to be almost like bouncing up and down in excitement about their own products, because frankly, if you don't love your products, then why would I love them? Do you know what I mean? So I think it is really important for a small business owner is maybe if you don't feel that excited about your new products, most people I talk to, when I ask them about what they're working on or their new ranges, they're just like, oh my goodness, I love it. I can't believe that I've done this. And that's the sort of thing that if you feel it naturally, you want to be able to share it, right? For the customer or for your audience to really feel that excitement, be like, oh, I've got to get one of those.
I think so. I think it's from when I've seen other small businesses, or even with mine when I've done it, I think, and other people, they enjoy it and then they become part of it as well, I think. And then they just become sort of, they're interested in you a little bit as well. And so then then it helps, I think, bring a bit of customer loyalty, I think, as well. I'm still quite private on like my home life and like my children. And for me personally, I don't share everything, but I'm quite open on the business side because I think, why not?
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you find that it helps streamline your marketing as well to have a sort of launch date to work towards?
Yeah, I think so. I think like I said earlier, all of it is quite new to me. So I'm just starting to learn to be a bit more conscious with like launch dates and have more of an intentional, like have set things. Like, whereas before everything's been quite ad hoc because I didn't know that you should plan launch dates. So I've sort of learned all of that along the way, and I think it definitely helps because then I'm like, okay, I've set this date, and then I think if I've sort of started to tell people at that date that half the time I wonder if anyone actually cares, but even if they don't, it's okay, because that's the day that it's given myself accountability
Yes.
for. And then I'm like, right, that's it. I've said that I'm going to do it. I've put it out there into the universe, and so now I have to just get it done. So I think it helps for my own accountability, and also on the chance that someone is desperate to buy it on that day. If that
Yes, got you. Yes. And of course, if it's to do with certain dates as well, like Valentine's or Mother's Day, then you have to work around your kiln firings as well, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I probably have to go a little bit ahead of maybe what other businesses do, because I have such a longer lead time with the firings. So that has definitely helped. I think especially this year, it's been much better to have more of an idea of dates that I want to get things out. And then I have to like work backwards, like when do my product development need to be done? When do I want to try and get my photography out there? And then along that whole process, I just share everything, just so you know. Or even like now with, I mean, it's not now, but the next sort of gifting season coming up is going to be Father's Day. So I was like, okay, I'm going to ask people, what should I do for Father's Day? Because I've got a few ideas, but I'd just be curious to know if any, and then that'll be the first start of my Father's Day chat until it gets to the big day.
Yeah, so you're starting taking them along the journey right from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you so much, Manmeet. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I really enjoyed finding out more about your behind the scenes process and how you build up to a launch. So do you want to just tell us quickly where we can find you?
Yes, I'm on Instagram. I'm White Rain Designs, and my website is www.whiteraindesigns.com. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that works. I don't know why I'm laughing.
I'm laughing so much, that's why. Because I don't think I've ever said my website out aloud, so it feels really like unorganic. I'm just like, www. I was like, shall I give my address? Yeah, I'm at no, okay. I'm so bad for things like that, aren't I? Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm at White Rain Designs on Instagram.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Manmeet for joining me today. It was a really fascinating episode. Why not hop over to Instagram and say hi to me at Resilient Retail Club? You can tag me and show me where you are when you're listening to the podcast. It's always fascinating for me to see where you're listening in from. And also, why not drop me a note and tell me what you took away from the podcast? Is there anything that you're going to do differently next time you launch a product? If you have a moment to rate and review the podcast, it is so helpful and so appreciated. And if you subscribe, then you'll be the first to know when the next episodes are released. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions, or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.